So hello and welcome to lesson 1.1 in Leaving Cert Plus Construction Studies. In this lesson we will explore the construction industry in the Irish economy. So we'll start off here just to set some context, and one of the fundamental aspects of this lesson will focus in on how the construction industry can contribute significantly to our economy, and this can take play in terms of a significant contribution to general domestic product, GDP, employment and infrastructure development. So we'll be exploring all of these aspects throughout this lesson. So before we begin, I just invite you to pause the video for a moment and consider the following question. Okay, so we're going to take a look at this now, and the question states, how does the construction industry impact the Irish economy? So we'll just run through some basic pointers here, and it may be similar to some of your own thoughts. The first thing is in relation to our GDP. So our national gross domestic product, as we can see here, that is a huge factor in terms of the construction contribution to our economy. And this creates growth for the Irish government in terms of revenue intake and in terms of spending power for people as well, with their own private budgets and their incomes. So generally, an increased GDP is reflective of a growing economy, and the construction industry tends to mirror that. Employment is a huge aspect in terms of contribution. There's a large workforce which centres around the construction industry, and there's many industries that will have a multiplier effect based off construction activity, which we'll have a look at later on. Investment and growth comes off construction activity, so often if there's construction activity in an area, it drives other investment in infrastructure and housing, and it stimulates growth around the economy and further development. Tax revenue is a huge contribution that construction industry makes, and this would give revenue to government, which would support public services and infrastructure investment. So I spoke very briefly there about the multiplier effect, and this would play out in many different ways in terms of construction activity, beginning obviously with the initial spending that takes place around any construction activity. So this would create a ripple effect in the economy, it generates additional jobs, and it creates economic activity in related sectors. One of those related sectors would be in relation to manufacturing, and this would take place generally through the production of materials such as lumber or timber, concrete, steel, and this stimulates local manufacturing activity, and ultimately it produces the goods that are required to construct housing or other developments related to construction. An industry which is a huge beneficiary of any increased growth in terms of construction is that of transportation. And transportation of construction materials and of workers to job sites leads to growth in the transportation sector. So this would play out, we all see it around us on the roads, trucks, logistics and other infrastructure that gains off the back of this. So once again, I just invite you to pause the video for a moment, and in this question we're focusing on perhaps some of the current challenges facing the industry today. So it'll be interesting what your thoughts were on this. We'll take a look at some of the challenges that I'm going to highlight, and it may coincide with some of the areas that you highlighted yourself. One of the primary challenges to the construction industry is that it relies heavily on economic cycles, and in the last couple of decades, particularly in Ireland, we have fallen into a pattern of boom and bust. At the moment, the economy and the construction industry as a consequence are in positive growth and are very much in a good place in terms of their activity levels, but this is very much open to fluctuation and is very reliant on global economic cycles. There would be a very pointed challenge at the moment, particularly in an Irish context, around skills shortages, particularly around skilled workers, around construction projects, and the result of this is that it can often hinder growth and it can lead to project delays. So to address this, government are beginning to look at various training and education programs that will hopefully ensure a steady supply of qualified professionals and tradespeople to meet demand. Another huge topical challenge is in relation to meeting housing demand, particularly around highly densely populated urban areas. It is a national problem, but it's particularly pointed in those highly populated areas. And a constant challenge is in relation to sustainability goals, particularly in relation to construction activity. And this can often mean that we need to look at how we can adopt green building practices, how we can use sustainable materials, and how the various aspects of construction can perhaps look at how much energy you're using and hopefully improve that in terms of construction projects. So with our infrastructure investment, currently there's a lot of activity in this area, and that benefits the economy overall. It also improves the quality of life for people. So the more access we have to public amenities, to better road structures, to more public transport, the better everyone's quality of life is, and also it has a multiplier effect in terms of the impact on the overall economy. Key infrastructure projects are being planned and designed, and some are underway, and these will be national projects of importance. So we can think of the likes of public amenities, public services such as hospitals and schools, and various travel amenities. So that would include the construction and development of new road networks, but also in terms of our sustainability and overall impact on the environment, to continue to grow and increase the options around public transport. So as I said, various infrastructure projects are at different phases, and these would include not just new projects, but the upgrading of roads, bridges, utilities, and other essential infrastructure. And the long-term benefits of that, as we briefly touched on a moment ago, is that it supports economic growth, it enhances connectivity with people around the country, and it boasts the overall quality of life for Irish citizens. So the last question I'll just ask you to consider now is in relation to technological advancements which may take place in the coming decade that would have an impact on construction in Ireland. So we'll take a look now at some of the more pertinent technological advances that have started or maybe are developing as we speak, and this may align with some of your own thoughts to this question. So the first two areas I'm just highlighting here are automation. This will particularly play out in terms of the manufacturing process of many of the materials that are required for construction. And this is an area of advancement that has come a long way in the last decade, and no doubt over the next decade will continue to do so. 3D printing, particularly in relation to concrete construction at the moment, is something that is advancing very, very quickly. And we now are in a stage where we can go on to large housing developments and we can see a machine printing a house from start to finish in terms of the concrete walls. So there's huge scope for improvement there, and it's something that I have no doubt will continue to develop over the coming decade. And two other areas which are having huge development at the moment will be in relation to virtual reality. Firstly, augmented reality options as well, and this is particularly relevant for clients as they look at the design phase of buildings and gives them an idea of what a building can look like and what the flow of it will be before any physical work takes place. And lastly, just in terms of technological advancements, the use of drones and how they might relate to the construction industry is something that's been trialled and something that has been very successful to date, particularly in relation to site surveys, project monitoring, and all of that is the ultimate goal of improving safety and efficiency around construction sites. So just some of the key takeaways for yourselves to take from this lesson. The construction industry is an economic engine generating huge amounts of revenue and contributing to our national GDP percentage. There's importance around sustainability goals, so in terms of the range of employment opportunities at different levels, and also in terms of the economic and environmental impact that the construction industry plays. And finally, in terms of our overall national picture, the infrastructure development and how the construction industry is essential for the building and maintaining of that infrastructure supports both society and the economy. So that concludes lesson 1.1.
If you like this video, you'll love our notes. You can get some for free in the link in the description of this video.